Podcast. I'm your host, Amir, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. I have Flo Fox with me. Hey, Flo, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you. I'm fine. Yep. Just short introduction to me. I don't know if everyone of the audience knows me. I'm Flo Fox. I'm Global V Team Lead in Fast Track for Azure, part of Azure Engineering, and I'm working a lot with HCI recently. And that's, I think, also the reason why you invited me to your podcast. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's not the only reason. Oh, no problem at all. It's my pleasure. It's so I. This is not a HCI podcast. This is not even a Microsoft podcast. To be uh, really honest. So this is about everything that I find interesting, everything that I think that other people might find interesting. So we've done some episodes about just non-technical stuff as well. So how to improve your technical presentation skills, for example, or we have also done something on very high level automation. Why should you do automation, or what are the pros and cons of automation, stuff like that. So it's I've done one on blockchain, web3, web 3.0, right? It's the hot technologies right now. So this is not a Microsoft platform, or honestly this is everything and anything that I find interesting.
Okay.
But of course, I am with HCI background, so I especially enjoy talking to HCI people like yourself. I've also had Jayant. You know, Jayant, you worked with Jayant also, was my colleague. And we've also had a very quick introduction about what Azure Stack HCI is. We have talked about what integrated systems are versus validated systems, the flavors of HCI, Windows Server HCI, and Azure Stack HCI, right? So yeah, we've had some like runway to getting talking about HCI, but yeah, it's been fun. All having all these conversations from, especially from people from different backgrounds, right? So you talk to people who are admins, you talk to people who sell HCI, but you talk to people who maintain HCI, and so it is very interesting to kind of capture all of their points of views about what all the new announcements are, what all the features are, and what the bugs are, even, right? And what enhancements would they want to see and everything. So it's pretty interesting. So what I'll do, Flo, today is we are talking about announcements that were recently made in Ignite 2022, right? So it
Mhm.
was a fun event as always. Microsoft is kind of coming out and saying that we are very, focused, and we are very heavily invested into HCI market. We are going all guns blazing in the hybrid market as well, right? So it is very interesting for someone like us who are in the infrastructure field of IT. It is very interesting to see that indeed there are some enhancements also happening in hardware side, not just the software. And so we will talk about that in detail. So let me just quickly roll this intro clip, and then we can get started. Awesome. So Flo, let's talk about your role in Microsoft. What you said you're from the Azure Fast Track team. That sounds really interesting. What is a Fast Track team?
So Fast Track Team is a special arm of Azure Engineering. So we are part of the product groups and of Azure Engineering, and we are there to more or less make customers successful. So we
Hmm.
are engaged in projects about Azure Stack, to have help customers with architecture guidance, best practices, view Microsoft views on a solution and how it should look like, and also being the extended arm of the product groups within the field, within the projects, gathering feedback, gathering enhancements, as you said, bugs, gaps in the documentation, and feed that back to our peers from the product group to make our platform and our products better, and really being customer voice. We are free of charge, So you need to have an Azure project or the intent to do Azure or Azure Stack, and then
Okay.
you can engage that either yourself, raise a nomination through our website at Microsoft, or through your account teams, through partners, like like with Dell, as it was we worked in the past together, Samir, and yep, then get us onboarded. And for HCI, it's just yes, we want to do HCI, but we don't know if our solution works. So that's already qualifying a customer to do Azure Stack or
Yeah.
to do fast track with Azure Stack. And the only thing we would require is at least one customer feedback. It means
Okay.
customer wish for a feature, findings on our documentation. That's all. That's all we require, and then we can work with the customer free of charge.
Oh, amazing. So I can imagine, like, since it is free of charge, you must be swamped with work from everywhere.
No, we are more like a hidden champion. It's like
Okay.
we're even within the Microsoft field. Uh, we are a bit unknown. We're there since 5 years, but we are not really engaged when it comes to the heavy lifting, so not the determined things. But especially in HCI, from the field, we are highly recommended, even if you have a partner or if you're working with an OEM. We are highly recommended to just have an additional pair of eyes to help with those new technologies because, as I said, we are early in. We are also early adopters ourselves. We are going through the same pain like our customers and being the customer voices in the product group. So it's, in this case, it makes sense, and it's how we are seen. We are not especially on Azure, we're not taking every project, but
Right.
as said, for emerging or new technologies like HCI, we prefer to be there and help, or at least listen to our customers and how we can improve the platform.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. I think you can. It's a blend of work from engineering as well as evangelism and then customer success. So there's a lot of interesting things you can talk
Right.
about. Awesome. So, did you enjoy the Ignite last week? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I
It
think
it
last week.
was it was last week. To be honest, I wasn't able to watch lots of Ignite sessions due to private things. As you know, I'm alone during the week with my kids, and I also produced a few Ignite sessions in the background, especially for the German-speaking ones.
Mhm.
So there wasn't really things. I'm currently watching the videos, reading the wrap-ups. Um, but from a session perspective, it's just, especially in HCI space, it's for us as engineer, as part of engineer, we already knew what would come, and we
Yeah,
already played with stuff.
yeah,
So it's nothing new, but at least from a producer point of view, I can say I really enjoyed it,
yeah,
producing the sessions. But as I said, I'm still catching up with all the new things.
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, it may not be a big surprise. A lot of announcements may not be a big surprise to you, but um, we even as so at the moment I was with Dell, so I had some, let's say, some insights into what was about to come, but again, limited insights. So I was kind of expecting some of the things to come out, and some of the things I have to admit I kind of caught me off guard,
Mm.
especially one in particular that we'll talk about later. Um,
Yeah, that's the one I already. I think we're talking about the same. I knew about that one, and I'm also one of the lucky people early in. But
okay.
it was also. I think that wasn't really a plan to announce it today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, I don't know what thinking or what planning went into it, or what kind of challenge that they're trying to address with that particular announcement or enhancement or whatever. But anyways, let's not
Let's talk
tease.
about that later.
Yeah, let's not tease it too much. So let's go with the flow, right? um, let's start with the most, this probably the one that is a lot of people or most people are most excited about, which is the licensing model change, right?
Yeah.
So if for customers or for enterprises who have enterprise agreement license with Microsoft with software assurance, they can essentially use Azure Stack HCI for free, right?
and Kubernetes services, AKS and HCI.
Oh,
So
okay.
the $10 per core are gone for those customers.
Right.
It's because when you're an existing Hyper-V customer or VMware customer, and you have your data center license with software assurance or data center license on your host, you do not pay for the operating system and for the virtual machines.
Right.
So from a business case perspective, paying $10 per core for management and operating system of HCI didn't make sense for most of those customers. And in this case, product group, product engineering listened to the customers. Also, I had a lot of discussions throughout the last fiscal year because of that. Um, and we decided, okay, customer already paid for the licenses.
Yeah.
He has
Exactly.
enough core cards, enough core packages. So yeah, let's do it like Hyper-V Core. Give the operating system for free, put the licensing on top, done. It's Do you still have the option to go on an OPEX model? I think we will talk about that later also.
Mhm.
Go on an OPEX model and getting the $10 per core and paying your Windows license on top of that as a subscription based, or just using other non software assurance licenses for the Windows Server VMs, but at least for those customers already owning software assurance and enterprise agreements, those costs are gone.
Okay.
And
That's an amazing news.
yeah, and we need to have software assurance because Azure Stack HCI is a current branch system. So every 12 months you will get a new release of the operating system, which is doing an inline upgrade of your cluster. So
Right.
you need always to have the current license. That's why we need to have software assurance. Otherwise, the whole upgrade process will not work.
Okay. Cool. Cool. That is so. Does that mean? So I just wonder how is that going to affect Microsoft's revenue model in any way, or are they going to increase the prices of, let's say, software assurance or enterprise
Not
agreements?
not that I know. It's more it's an internal thing.
Right.
Because normally we in Fast Track, when you're going for a regular Azure project, you're asked for your Azure consumed revenue, so how many money you want to spend on Azure. And
Right.
with HCI on the licensing model, you will no longer have this core ACR, these $10 per core. So that's the only impact I currently see within my organization, and also when I talk to sales about that, that they are seeing the impact from a from an ACR perspective, because it's now back to Windows Server licensing, but it's a full plus for the customer decision. Here it's not anything, or it's not like we wanted to push everything to ACR. It's really benefiting our customers and getting feet on the ground for the operating system itself, because that was a large blocker. To be honest, it's not
Right.
the technology in most cases. It's really here the cost perspective from existing customers.
Right. So essentially, so now that you've got Azure Stack HCI licensing also covered in the enterprise agreement, and you probably also have the data center licenses for your guest VMs. So essentially, you're just up and running with HCI now, right? You just need
Right.
to order the appliance, and then you're good to go.
Right. That's done basically. So you can go and move to HCI without any additional license cost. Just get your hardware.
Right. So speaking about hybrid benefits, so let's also touch quickly upon the extended security support aspect of this as well, right? So for customers who are running, who want to like running on 2012, has 2012 gone end of support yet? I think it
I
has.
think it's an extended support, but 2008 and R2, 2012 R2 are covered with the extended license, with the extended support on
Right.
Azure and on Azure Stack HCI. So if you
Right.
enable that on your hosts, and you move your virtual machines to Azure Stack HCI, it's free of charge to have the extended support. Especially another good thing on the support is it's then covered through the Azure support and the Azure portal for the support.
Oh yeah.
And let's think on your support contracts. Normally, if you wanted to do support on a Windows server, you need to have a support contract for Windows Server. And for every server you have, which could end up in a large costs for the support, when you now have, let's say, one subscription with standard support or professional, premium, whatsoever support, and you connect all your clusters to that subscription,
You're
limitless number.
extending everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's extending everything. So every cluster, every hybrid use benefit, which is running in that subscription, will receive the same level of support. So if you're a small company, you just order one for $100 a month. You have the standard support, and all your clusters beneath that standard support, you receive standard support plus the hardware support from your vendor. And if you have highly critical workloads, you can just upgrade your support contract and get the highly critical support for those specific clusters or for all your environment. As
Right.
there's no limit on if you have that specific support level, it's only for 10 clusters. It's for everything which is in the subscription.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So again, so for people who are already, or when I say people, I mean enterprises who are already invested into Azure heavily or are planning to invest into Azure, this is essentially a freebie for them, right?
Yep.
It's almost a freebie. Yes, there
It's
might be
it's
if you
it's
go
already
for
given.
yeah, it's already given. It's part of the package.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go for external third-party OEMs like Dell, Lenovo, HP, whatever, then yes, there might be some capex that comes with the third-party appliances and stuff. But I mean, that's your
But
choice. And
yeah. If you, for example, go for the integrated system with Lenovo, Data on, Dell, HP GreenLake, um, and others, you also get this benefit of having a joint support from Microsoft and the OEM
and
and
other,
from the
yeah,
vendor. And
yeah,
so there's no pushing tickets around.
yeah,
It's like, yep, we have an issue. We don't know if it's Dell or if it's Microsoft. Everyone comes to the table, and it looks like, okay, Storage Spaces Direct has some issues. It looks
yeah,
like it's because of disk 5 in server 2 because it already has a lot of smart errors. Now can you send it a replacement disk? Okay, the disk didn't solve. Okay, now we need to repair the storage spaces or something like that. So it's no longer it's a joint support, and
yeah.
that's amazing. Uh, and you can either trigger it from the Microsoft side or from the OEM side.
Yeah, so it makes the life so much easier for the customers, right? So just raise a ticket and forget about it, essentially.
Right. And also raise tickets automatically.
Oh
With
yeah,
I
call
worked a
more.
bit with Dell, like you did. I also worked for Dell for 3 years, and there is an integration for Dell Open Managed, and also
Yeah,
from Lenovo and HP, and also from their support system and management platforms into Windows Admin Center.
right.
So if you're encountering an issue, you can trigger Open Manage to send an email and open support request and get a call back from Dell what's going on.
Yeah,
And already also automatically sending direct logs, etc., from the servers to the support, and that makes life so
so
much
much easier.
easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I've been in that place where you have to literally fight between multiple vendors and multiple companies as to, nope, this is your problem. They say, nope, it's not ours. Go back to
Yep.
these guys. If they say, nope, not our problem.
Um,
It's not
also
a
from
pretty place to be.
and also from a fast track perspective, what we're also doing a lot is talking to the OEMs and comparing our experiences. And so hardware OEMs know about the mainly on the operating system and on their hardware. We know
Right.
about everything which comes on top. And we are
Yeah.
discussing a lot with the OEMs if we have a special hardware package where it says, okay, maybe network interfaces are. Yes, you have an all-flash array and you have 10 gig RDMA. And then we say, okay, but they want to run AKS and data services on top. with a three-way, with not mirrored, but also with parity. That means we need to push 15, 100,000 IOPS through the network interfaces from one node to two others.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 gig is not enough, especially when you're going to 3 or 4 or more nodes.
More
So
nodes.
let's go to 25 because the customer wants to scale in the future. And that's discussion we also have together with the OEMs in a customer project and to find really the right solution. And from an engineering perspective, I'm not here to sell something. I'm here to make things successful. And that could be that's also giving a hard time to Microsoft people and to OEMs and partners, saying, okay, yes, that will work for now, but what we're doing in the future with the products, plus what the customer is planning, that would Im- that would bring up another investment within 1 year, within maybe 1.5. Let's talk to the customer if he wants to take that risk, or if he wants to invest now and be safe in the future and just put in
Right.
another server and be fine. And that's what I really enjoy on the whole topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's very individual based decision, and I think that's what makes it interesting.
yeah,
Absolutely. So again, if that's in my opinion, that's a solid enough argument to already buy into Azure Stack HCI. But still, if for some reason you're not convinced, there are also some other technical enhancements that were also
yeah,
announced at Ignite.
right,
One of them being, so previously there was already a Azure Arc enabled private public preview version 1 that was already in place. So as part of that, you could essentially spin up your Azure Stack HCI machines on-prem using the Azure portal, the public Azure portal. Right. So that was possible already using something called as Azure Arc Resource Bridge, I think it's
right,
called.
yeah,
So that was already in place, and trust me, that was received very well. We've heard all the good things about it. It's like makes life and management so much more easier.
yeah,
So that was already in place, but now they have also enhanced upon it. So now they have released version 2
right.
of the
And
preview. What
and that
can you?
was that's a major change.
Oh
So
yeah,
when you deployed the Arc VM bridge in the past, you saw that it creates an AKS cluster light,
yeah,
spins up a workload cluster for the Arc bridge, and then running the agent from this workload cluster to the host.
right,
What we have now is really an Arc agent, which means within the Arc agent running on HCI, you have the direct integration from the host to the Arc management. And with
okay,
that, it also enables things like custom script extensions, merging of the current Arc deployed VMs, Arc Bridge deployed VMs with VMs managed or physical machines managed with Arc for servers, and having one experience. And that's due to the change. Arc Bridge was great, was working. You were able to deploy things, but it was missing all these nasty great features you had from Arc for servers.
right.
And with now having the Arc agent taking over and being part of this whole solution, you're getting also all the great Arc features, yeah, you have or from Arc for servers. So
Do you
maybe not
mean to
in the
say, sorry, do you mean to say that you no longer require Azure Arc Resource Bridge?
I need to check it out myself, but it's now with Arc enabled managed machines, it will still deploy. I th- I
Okay,
said I need to test and need to see it in a newly deployed cluster. It will still deploy the VMs, but it will then integrate better with the whole Arc for server piece, and you do not have now a split issue between okay they are deployed with resource bridge and having other features than those I deployed
right.
myself using and put Arc for servers on.
Okay.
So they now, at least in GA, they should be equal.
Well, if that's the case, that is amazing because, like you said, the resource bridge, it kind of works like exactly like you said. It deploys an AKS, small AKS cluster, and then spins a workload. So at the in the back of the head, it kind of felt like they're somehow trying to make it work, but it is not seamless.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if it comes into everything comes into Azure Arc as an agent,
Yep.
then that's absolutely amazing. That's even more compute saved for your other workloads then.
That's always with the things we are bringing to on-prem.
Yeah,
So HCI again is born in Azure.
yeah.
It's the operating system we are running beneath Azure. Maybe not the current one you see, but it's the future one.
Mhm.
Far, far in the future is the one born out of Azure.
Yeah,
And we have to say we have the same requirements in a much larger scale than our customers. And at some point, as we're working on on-prem, it maybe the first version or the first iteration is more like built on top of an existing operating system we have, like with 21H2 or 20H2, we build it on top as a more application-based model. And with the next iteration, we can bring it into the kernel, we can bring it into the specific agent running on the operating system and being nearer to the operating system because we learned about the scenarios and deployments and feature gaps and then develop the next version after the customer requirements.
nice. It sounds exciting. I was going to ask is why do you think is Microsoft investing a lot into this Azure hybrid cloud space? Because in the
Mm,
world of so I am actually coincidentally I am currently in the middle actually of an Azure conference. So I'm speaking here. It's a 2 day conference. I'm a speaker here talking about HCI, of course, but it is mainly a public cloud, native cloud kind of Azure conference. And all these talks that I've attended so far, they're all talking about no, we don't want to stay on prem. We don't want to do anything in on prem. We don't even want servers. We want to go serverless. And then my messaging is exactly the opposite in a way,
yep.
right? So I want to convince them to stay on prem. You cannot move everything to cloud. Yes, hang on. I mean, all of this sounds good, but it doesn't work.
Yeah,
So stay on prem, keep your environment hybrid, not completely cloud native.
yeah.
So
And that's also what Microsoft thinks. So I think a few years ago, 3 to 4 years, Satya said hybrid is here to stay.
yeah,
And that's also the point I'm seeing with my customers. So I'm working a lot with mining companies, with manufacturers, with retailers. And if you're outside of the US, you always have latency issues.
oh yeah,
Uh, And you cannot put an Azure data center or a cloud data center everywhere on the globe. So that's retailers, for example. Retailers have shops all
every
around,
yeah,
everywhere. Uh, let's take for example Woolworth in Australia. We are talking about 7,500 shops only in Australia, where you only have a small footprint of cities where you can live. The rest of Australia is empty. It's just population and maybe 20%
Australia,
of the
yeah, it's like it's only on the east coast, west coast. There's small amount of, and the
right.
whole west land is empty,
Yeah,
basically.
and those retailers need to have systems in their shops for accounting because even the latency for accounting, you don't want to wait for your credit card payment or for your bill for 30 seconds or 1 minute and when you're paying. You want to have it now. And that's not working with most of the retailers in the cloud because they have so many stores, so they need to have at least the accounting system management on-prem, but they want to manage their fleet. They want to manage all their machines on the shop, their virtual machines, their hypervisors, and that from a single pane of glass.
Yeah,
And it's where for those retailers, Arc and HCI comes in. It's a single pane of glass. They can deploy, they can manage, they can spin up their systems with Kubernetes services, data services in their stores. And if something fails, they can still fail back to the cloud, or they can send another system, or they have a failover system somewhere. Um, but as I talked about Australia is for cloud is a hard business. All cloud providers are on the East Coast, Sydney. Uh, so most of them are in Sydney, but there's nothing in Perth.
Yeah.
Perth, the Outback, Darwin, there's nothing. Nothing. Even if Darwin and Perth are major cities, the latency to the cloud environments is too high. And when you're a hospital, when you're a mining company, you need to have your systems on-prem to overcome the limitation of the latency. So, but you still want to have the all over fleet management. You still want to have backend systems, backend services running in the cloud. So what you do is putting HCI in your hospitals, in your mines, near to your manufacturing plants to do, let's say, IoT control, to do raw data, or everything you need to work with raw data or machinery control, um, Wi-Fi control, like with the Mac systems, etc., etc. So that's what you do near shore. Everything else, like monitoring, accounting, marketing stuff, all those things are the Excel guys need to do a business calculations that can be done from the cloud somewhere else.
Yeah.
And also production data can be controlled from the cloud and presented to management. That's perfectly fine. But that are use cases where you have really benefit from the hybrid model. You have everything you need on-prem, nearshore, and then you have everything else, backend systems you don't need near to your environments running on the cloud and working at scale. Or there's always the point of data governance and data security. There are countries like Japan, Germany, China, where you need to have intellectual property which is produced within the country stored on-prem because of data security and law situations.
Yeah.
And you still want to you can present them globally using content delivery network, but you need to store them locally within the country. And if you're not having any cloud provider sitting in your country or sitting in your on-premise environment, you need to store it there. And then still you're back in hybrid cloud, storing your data on-prem and presenting it globally using, as I said, content delivery networks, front door, Power BI, whatsoever, and that can be again done from the cloud.
Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a lot. Yes. So you've actually given me a lot of content for my session tomorrow, because I know a lot of people are going to ask me the same question. Hey, the last day and last 1.5 day we've been hearing about, no, you need to move to cloud, you need to move to cloud, but this guy is saying that
It's
no, no,
still
don't move
cloud.
to cloud.
It's still cloud. It's hybrid.
Exactly. That's my point. Is like, yes, I'm not saying stay on prem. Go to the cloud by all means if your workload is fit enough, or it fits the criteria to move entirely to cloud. Hey, I'm not going to be the one to stop you. Go ahead, do that. But if there are some certain limitations that are putting you on prem, then just don't forcefully put something on cloud and regret it later, because
Right.
those cases have also happened.
And even
Um,
if you put it to cloud, it's still required. So I have a lot of customers running IoT management for they're selling heaters, fridges with IoT management.
yeah.
And then they have one central hub for the IoT systems within Europe. And then they're coming to fast track and say, yeah, but it's the latency to Japan is horrible. I said, yep. Yeah, you need to fix that. So cannot fix that. That we are talking about physics here.
Yeah,
I never heard that someone invented transwarp, so you cannot be faster than the speed of light.
please fix the
So
physics.
yeah, and then and here that's also one major one thing you always need to think of when doing cloud, if you're a global company, if you're offering a global service, you need to not have everything centralized. You need to be in every
Distribute.
regions where you have customers, where your latency requirements are not given. Let's say Japan, China, to
Yeah.
Europe, it's 200, 180 to 250 milliseconds. Australia is 320, 330 seconds.
Seconds.
Milliseconds, sorry,
Ah,
milliseconds. But it's
okay.
still ending up in seconds to minutes until you see something. And your applications will run into timeout. Your IoT devices will run into timeouts because they cannot talk to their control server.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to decentralize your systems. And if you're decentralizing or you need to decentralize in a region where you don't have any providers, Central Africa, Australian outback, South America, somewhere really south. Not talking about Brazil or Chile, talking really about Central South, Antarctica, somewhere. I have a customer who has ships on the ocean,
Right.
not regularly connecting to only connecting through satellites, and they need to have their systems somewhere running near. And then it's either, as I said, if you have a cloud there, perfect. If not, you need to have your cloud on your ship or on your environment, and that's hybrid.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
It's your
Uh,
computer. It's your computer, but not your workload, or it's not your application, basically.
yeah. Okay. Flo, it's all interesting to talk about, but I think at this point we're kind of drifting away from the announcements agenda that
If
we
we
had today.
we can
So
do a spin-off session if anyone is interested in
yeah,
that
yeah,
talk.
we can have a separate discussion about this. Um, so let's get back to the announcements here. So as part of the VM extended VM management, there were already the provision to spin up virtual machines on Azure Stack HCI from the portal, but now you can also manage extensions on those virtual machines, right? So all the guest machines that you are provisioning on your Azure Stack HCI cluster, I'm not talking about the cluster itself, the guest machines that you spin up on them will also automatically be Arc enabled, right? So which is a
Right.
fantastic news, because actually the first time I tried it out when I created my first virtual machine from the Azure portal on my Azure Stack HCI cluster, that was the first question I asked. So why do I have to manually onboard this to Arc again?
Yeah.
Because this is essentially coming from the cloud in a way.
Right.
So this should just be automatically enabled. So now that is a reality. So that's great.
And that gives you so many options. It's like you can run custom script extensions. I had this with a customer before our talk. It's like, yeah, you can use desired state configuration. Just run the custom script extension, call desired state configuration pull server, get your
Exactly.
configuration, get it AD joined, get your applications on, get it into your cluster. If it's a cluster node, get it into the cluster. Done. Don't care about it. It's there
Yeah.
after
And
30
all of
minutes.
this is while provisioning the virtual machine. So you don't have to
Right.
do anything manually. You just
Right.
run your script, just attach, let's say, in a way, attach this to the image of your virtual machine. And while it is deploying, it will do all of these things and it will be ready to go on the day one. Not even day one, I think this just like minute one.
It's it's minutes to maybe hours depending on the
Yeah,
applications you want to install.
yeah.
So for an example, when I used it already with Hyper-V. So with one of
Okay,
my customers, we will use the desired state configuration automated provision with Hyper-V. And within
right.
30 minutes, we had a new cluster node
Oh, nice. Cool.
with all configurations ready to go, already
It's production
taking
ready.
over virtual machines, production ready.
Yeah, that is amazing. That time has come down from months to days and now 2 hours. So that is amazing. So as part of it, there's also now you can also spin up VMs from the marketplace images, right? So
Right? And
it's not only from the VHDs, but you can also
use
Select the
use it
marketplace.
from the marketplace, and also use Windows Server Azure Edition
Yeah.
with a feature we all wished for years and years and years. It was already there 20 years before when I started my career. Zero downtime patching,
Oh yeah, hot patching.
hot patching. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
we wished for it for years. It was there in Azure since years for the host operating systems, and now
Yeah.
it made its appearance in Windows Server for on HCI. It's
That
amazing.
that is again that is amazing. That's a good. I'm sure that one of the news that will also be very well received um, by the customers. So there's also well 22H2 public preview was already out, but now it is generally available, right? Um, what other features, what extra additional enhancements is 22H2 bringing in?
Um, a lot of them. So when you work with, for example, so at first the ATC, so the automated configuration of the network interfaces, got its version 2 with more options, and
Right.
also with enhancements and removing a few bugs. Um,
I
then
think
we have
there's also some things about live migration settings and all, right? So
yeah,
uh,
there are improvements on live migrations. There's the storage replication compression was put in, which gives us more performance on the replication.
yeah,
So you should see that, especially when doing seeing S2D in clusters or stretch clusters. It already should improve the overall performance of those stretch clusters. So I think we were gapped at 1 million IOPS with 21 H2, and I tested with a friend of us at Dell,
mm.
Jaromir, and he said, yeah, he was at 1.5 million IOPS with one of his clusters already.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, so
So
only due to the storage compression and replication compression. Um, there were some announcements around Azure Backup and Azure Site Recovery supporting HCI. Um, and improving the for Azure Backup Server the integration. Um, I think you will post the link afterwards. So there are a lot of
yeah,
enhancements
yeah.
around that, and then also HCI to Azure failover, which is now I think in preview. Um, so that
I was
was the
just
announcement
reading
from
through.
last week.
Actually, I have the announcements open here on the side. So I was just reading through it. So there's also some other great things like now you can go from two-way to three-way mirror.
Yeah, right.
Of course, now that might be subject to the storage availability.
It's due to storage availability, and it was just because we had customers who put virtual machines on a two-way mirror and then later noticed, okay, it's maybe more highly critical, and or it's
Yeah,
it's a hosting customer said, okay, now a customer told me you need to have and higher SLA and not fitting that with my two-way mirror. Yeah, then switch it on for three-way, and then we're matching again. So
right.
it was
So does that require a redeployment of the cluster, or is it nothing?
it's
Right.
just adding another copy to another server. But as you already said, you need to have enough disk space to do that.
Right.
In the past, you would require a storage migration. So
Right.
create a new volume, migrate the storage of the virtual machine over to the new volume, so that you have the three-way mirror. So now it's just switching it back on. But it will impact all virtual machines. So all virtual machines on that specific volume will then benefit from the three-way mirror. But I said it could bring up a lot of requirements for the additional storage. So if you're already running a hard capped on the storage, then
You may have to add in new nodes.
yeah. One thing I would like to mention here: hardware vendors tend to keep costs down by selling chassis with not so many options for additional disks, only matching the customer requirements. If you're ordering a server now and you plan to extend, already order larger chassis
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
empty slots so that you can
Yeah.
enhance the storage. Otherwise, it will become rather complex. Or you need
Yes.
to add another server, then you have memory and maybe CPU capacity you don't need, because what you're seeing a lot is customers running out of storage, not running out of memory
Yes.
or compute.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is still something you cannot, as far as I know, you cannot do that. You cannot independently scale storage from compute in Azure Stack HCI as it is today.
If you have
But
enough slots in your server, you can just put in more
no,
disk.
I mean, in case that you're already full,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
you
want,
cannot add a storage server. You cannot
yeah,
add
yeah,
external storage. It's you would need, if you're already full, you would need to add another server to enhance the whole
yeah,
pool of capacity.
right, cool, okay. And one of the announcements was also that they're also going to enhance Windows Admin Center, the GUI, and probably some extra features in the settings and all.
Yep.
Um,
So my team and I, we had a lot of talks to the admin center team.
right,
The admin center was, when we started admin centers, it was just a replacement of one web interface for the remote administration tools,
right,
for the other tools. So with WAC being central point of development for most of the deployment and configuration of HCI for most of our customers, the whole story needed to change.
yeah,
And the WAC team put a lot of effort into features and requests from customers, from field, from fast track to improve the admin center. Good example. When we talked to the WAC guys, to the admin center guys in August this year, with our feedback, they said, "Okay, we hear it. Give us time. Come back in November with the next ones."
right,
So that was really listen to our customers through fast track, listen to the field, and say, "Okay, now we need to have time from August to October to put your first package of requested feedbacks into WAC,
yeah,
get that done, and come back with the next package in November." And they're eager, they are pushy, they are doing everything to really enhance their product. But Admin Center is again a tool which requires a lot of parts of Microsoft.
right,
There is Active Directory involved. There are the guys from Active Directory involved. There's the guys from HCI, Hyper-V, Windows Server Core, etc. involved. So everyone needs to work on the product and give his resources to make it better. So that's makes it at some point complex to push new features fast, because we need to check it against the others existing ones so that we do not break. So if you change code, we do not for HCI we do not break Active Directory basically.
right. That makes sense. Yeah, because now I'll be quite honest. In the let's say old days, or in let's say a year ago, um, sometimes it was not the most comfortable to work with Windows Admin Center, especially with the HCI deployments.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that it is getting its much desired, much needed
It it
attention now.
it was still not. It was one message I'm giving to my customers. So personally, you're not talking as a Microsoft guy. Windows Admin Center is not made to replace vSphere from VMware
Right,
or or System Center Virtual Machine Manager.
right,
Together with Arc, it will give you 80% of the experience in the future.
right.
Maybe a bit more, but it's not made to replace those products.
Cool. That is another, that's a good thing to know, because again, I see a lot, I hear from a lot of people are saying that no, all the System Center suite itself is they're going to slowly deprecate and all that, they're going moving everything to cloud. That's really not the case though.
It's more like so at the moment it's really more what I see from my experience with System Center is like System Center is there. It's a complete product. Will get its updates like we see with Virtual Machine Manager right now,
Right.
but it's more integrated also in hybrid, using more Azure features or becoming a hybrid service itself, hosted from Azure for customers, which we will also see during the next month. Few services coming. But those tools will also become hybrid tools or are already hybrid tools like SCOM, Virtual Machine Manager. Uh, Config Manager is also with the endpoint integration. It's also a hybrid tool. So these products are also already hybrid cloud and will be enhanced with more and more features to become more hybrid aware.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So I was just thinking about that. You can as of today you can use Windows Admin Center from within the Azure portal also. Um,
Yes, but there you're still lacking a few features. Storage management, for example.
yeah. For now,
I
yes.
I did a blog on how Dojo comparing both,
Right.
and
Okay.
maybe other things are not in the admin center portal in Azure. It's maybe in the Arc configuration or in Azure monitoring or Azure endpoint protection, etc. So it's maybe
Yeah.
split it between different interfaces when why you have it
But
in one
still in the
interface
but
in the
still
admin
it's in
center
the
gateway.
portal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still in the portal. All right. So let's quickly talk about some enhancements into AKS. So much like today that you can provision virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI from portal, you can now also do the same for an AKS cluster.
Right.
Right? So you can spin up an AKS cluster on-prem using the Azure portal as well, and that just keeps getting more and more powerful and more consistent for people to manage and deploy their applications from a single pane of
Single
glass
pane
as
of
well.
glass.
So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
One thing I often hear with customers when I talk with them about the Arc for data services, for example, or Arc for or Azure Kubernetes services on HCI. Most customers think it's a PaaS service, but they're
Right.
seeing the virtual machines. So how I am explaining it is like think of it as an appliance. We're
Right.
deploying an appliance for you on your system, like Oracle or other appliance vendors would do. They giving you the virtual machines or they're giving you the deployment script, deploying their appliance according to their supported state on your systems, and then you have the management portal from those appliances somewhere else. And it's the same with the Arc services on HCI. We are deploying those services as an appliance, as a t-shirt size. You will see the virtual machines. You maybe can manipulate them. It's not supported, uh, but it will still be virtual machines running on your systems. For your developers, it would look like a PaaS environment because they're getting their workloads and can deploy it. But for an admin, it's like an infrastructure as a service environment
Yeah.
because he's able to see and manipulate the virtual machines.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of differentiating. I think so. There's for the users, it is fast, like you said. It's seamless. They don't even know what is running in the background. They just can consume AKS as they would consume on the public cloud. So for them, it makes no difference. But the admin knows what the deal is, so to say, right? So that's good. Um, and now let's get back to that the most surprising for me personally announcement, because I come from an OEM background, right? I was reading through the not the documentation. I was reading through the announcements, and the last announcement I saw was okay. Now Microsoft is also coming up with its own hardware. So they are coming with their own Azure Stack HCI hardware nodes, servers, right? That was kind of caught me off guard because I didn't even have a slightest clue about it. Now that might just be me personally, um, but that caught me off guard. It's like, oh, well, that is really interesting. So I wonder what prompted Microsoft to do this, and what impact it's going to have in the market in a whole. So what are
Um,
your thoughts?
so basically, we already had that. It was called Azure Stack Edge.
Edge, yeah,
It's basically the next iteration of Azure Stack Edge. It's no
right.
longer running on, not allowed to say what's beneath, but everyone can think of what operating system we may use.
Hmm.
Beneath that, it's just moving to a consistent infrastructure platform, and that it's based HCI with all
Right,
the integration. And it's replacing the Azure, or it, it's more or less not replacing right now, but it will be the next iteration of Azure Stack Edge, at least in my opinion. And we already offered that as a white labeled solution from one OEM and other OEMs. And we will never produce the systems ourselves. We are not a hardware manufacturer. We are working with partners to manufacture our devices. We are maybe delivering the designs and the specs, but someone else is building it. So it's not that the OEMs will lose business. They will just produce for us
right.
and cust and
But
and it,
under Microsoft branding,
yeah, it's like when you're buying an Accutech server, which is basically Intel, or when you're buying a Thomas Gren or Blue Chip server, which is Supermicro.
yes,
Same, they are manufacturing for the OEMs, which are then Supermicro is becoming an ODM, original design manufacturer. And that's what we're doing with Azure systems, with our partners. That's now we're also doing with the Pro system. We have our partners building the systems for us. We are white labeling them, sending out to customers, and we are putting Azure Stack HCI operating system with the whole management on top of it, so that the customer no longer needs to care about how do I need to build the cluster. But
right,
but the driver here is not removing business from our OEM partners, because we will never bring that scale, and we never have these large options of how hardware should look like. It's a few t-shirt sizes for
yeah,
most common things we have at the edge.
yeah,
But what we want to give the customer is an OpEx model. So think of a scenario. You're you're a company acquiring and you need to build a team for a specific project. Let's say you're making a film. Your company is who wants to make a film for cinema. You already produced all the video content, and now you're working with an external partner, doing the whole CGI effects, doing the whole cutting, etc. Your storage is in the cloud. Your and you want to have something on-prem. You will not buy a server which is a 3 to 5 year investment. It's only work for 3, maybe 6 months to do the final production, and then you're done. But you need to have it on-prem because the cutting machines are on-prem, and the latency is again too high. So you're ordering an Azure Stack Pro, putting it into um, this partner's environment, cabling it, maybe having a cluster, not only one unit, and then downloading all your content, giving access to that partner. He can edit his stuff. When he's done, he's done. You do the upload, you disconnect the servers. There's no longer an access for the partner to that files. You say, okay, put it back in the box. Here's the return label. Send it to Microsoft. Done. No longer any costs. Done. Or you have a short turnaround, or you have a hardware shortage. Let's say you have an on-premise project, and you need to have an HCI cluster, and your favorite OEM, Dell, HP, Lenovo, Dataon, is not able to deliver your systems for the next 6 months. Order it from the portal. We have a few on stock as we are not having that high demand.
Mhm.
hopefully, having things on stock,
Yeah.
sending it over to the customer. You can start with that cluster and then later on migrate to your actual OEM cluster as soon as it arrives. And then you send it back. It's really OpEx, scale as you need. Or you want to test something on HCI. You want to test a few workloads. Order beneath, no longer taking care about how the storage works, etc. It's also one thing where you could use the new Pro model. Or again, you're a mining company, spinning up a mine in the desert for 1 year, and then all your opals and diamonds are gone. Send it back,
Yeah. That makes
and
sense actually. Yeah.
we prices on the long term. I think will never be competitive to what you get from an OEM with a long-term contract and discounts, etc.
Right.
It's really going for OPEX instead of CAPEX, or having short turnarounds for your hardware. So that's how I personally see the use case. And yeah, having the streamlined management. If you don't have enough, if you don't know about Windows, if you don't want to learn about Azure Stack HCI, about storage spaces, you don't want to care about the hardware requirements, talk to the OEM, really simplify things as much as possible because you don't have IT guys in your office, or you don't want to spend so many hours on consultancy, that you just said, okay, send me a pre-packaged box, and then I'm done. It's like coffee machine, full automated coffee machine versus barista machine.
Right.
My wife is a barista guy, or she's a barista girl. She wants to have everything manual so that you can get the perfect
Control
coffee.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a consumer.
Yeah. Just
Cup,
want a copy.
coffee, drink, done.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's really how you need to compare it. And yes, you can go OPEX with also with the OEMs, like using GreenLake, TrueScale, or Apex. So HPE GreenLake, Lenovo TrueScale, and Dell Apex. But it's still a 1 year to whatever year commitment on capacity and
Right.
up and a payment. You can scale up if you like, but it's still a commitment. And here you don't have that commitment. If you don't need it, send it back. We don't care. And it's the
Right.
only capex costs is the shipment. So with Edge it was around $300 to $350, and that was the only capex investment you had on your subscription. And it's still not cannibalizing OEMs in certain markets. Good example, Brazil, for example. If we would ship an Edge device or a future HCI or Pro device from Microsoft to Brazil, it would cost around 7,000 US dollars
For
because
shipment.
for shipment, because 6,700 euros are for import taxes.
Oh wow. It's
And
crazy.
it's how Brazil protects his economy. If you're
Right.
doing it the way that you're getting the parts and building it within Brazil,
It's
then
cheaper.
it's much cheaper. That's perfectly fine because these parts are beneath a certain threshold because you need to have them. Or uh, some manufacturing companies already have plans to manufacture those parts in Brazil, small ones. For us as a Microsoft, it doesn't make any sense to have that. It's just too expensive to have it only for one country. So we
Mhm.
still rely on our OEMs to build the systems within country and then ship it within country. It's just also for us to have a consistent management platform. Either if you're going for do it yourself with the OEM, or getting it as a full managed service from Microsoft directly. And it needs to be consistent between everything. That was also not the case with Edge. Edge was different from is still different from HCI, from Hub, and now we want to have the one consistent platform.
That is amazing. That you actually put it very well explained as to what to all the people who've already maybe invested into the let's say Dell or HP or whatever. Is there there's no fear of missing out. There's no FOMO for them as well, right?
No,
So
it will still receive the same love and same care.
yeah,
Uh, maybe again, personal opinion. As
yeah,
we are owning the operating system beneath, it could be that we may be piloting a few more services earlier on the edge devices because we know the hardware platform is one platform,
right,
and then we may be being a bit earlier with some releases on the on the Pro platform, not still saying Edge Pro platform. Then we maybe do with the OEMs, but at the end, everything will be the same.
right.
It's really again OPEX versus CAPEX at the end. And if you want to have the barista machine doing it yourself, or just pressing a button for getting your coffee.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's a great analogy. I love it. Um, because integrated solutions, validated solutions, they have their own place, and this is for just quick testing. Let's say this is like a very make it, test it, and destroy it kind of thing.
One thing we need to mention here to close that one:
Right.
the Azure Stack HCI jump box.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So
I actually tried it and I loved it. It's
yeah,
amazing.
it's basically a script which spins up a whole Azure Stack HCI environment on Azure for
Yeah,
testing purposes, for piling purposes, not for production workloads, but you can learn Azure Stack HCI, you can test your AKS workloads and
yeah.
try things before you buy the hardware, before you buy your hardware. And we we are now also heavily using that in our testings, plus in our customer scenarios where we say, okay, we don't have the hardware yet, just spin up the jump box and let's at least give the customer something to learn on already.
Mm.
And that's also amazing achievement from the
It
team.
is great. It is great. It's actually I was able to spin up my whole HCI cluster yesterday because I needed it for a demo lab for my session tomorrow at this conference that I'm at. Right. So it was very quick. I just created a virtual machine in Azure, and then everything is on the same box. You create. I think it's a two-node cluster,
Yep.
and everything is enabled S2D, SDN, everything. It's a whole package.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep.
I love it. It's
Okay.
awesome. Glad that you mentioned that because I almost forgot about it. But that is one of the major announcements in Ignite about it. CI.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Flo. I think if
Welcome.
we keep talking, we'll keep talking. So let's
Definitely. So if
give it a break.
anyone interested in another talk, just put something in the comments.
Oh yeah. So we will hopefully. So I've done a couple of HCI related podcasts already, but again, this is an area of interest for me and for a lot of people that I know. So definitely, if you want to come back, then we can have another
Sure.
podcast. We can, maybe you also run a. Do you run a YouTube channel? I think you do.
Yeah, yeah, a newly funded YouTube channel, the Hybrid Friends, together with
Oh yeah.
my colleague Bernd, Bernhard Frank. Bert Wolters was already talking to with me about a few topics, and then also Carsten Rachfal, you may know from the
I
HCI
know them
community.
now. Yeah.
He will also do a few more things with him. You will also see his hat on our logo, as he's one of our hybrid friends.
Awesome.
Planning a lot of sessions with around Bernhard prepared a few videos for cabling HCI and what you need to take care of. So there will be more things in the future we encounter throughout our journey with HCI, doing a lot of videos on that. It's pretty early. We founded it 3 weeks ago. It went the
Okay.
first video went live. So, but there will be more in the future and
That's awesome.
also a lot of funky stuff. I will also talk with a colleague about hybrid gaming.
Oh yeah, I heard about it. I read about it. Well, I would ask what it is about, but then again, I think we'll
That's
go on a tangent. that will be hard to close off this
But
podcast.
it's
So
another hybrid cloud story. We can have another chat
maybe,
on another call about that.
yeah, yeah. So let's stick to the other things for later. For now, let's close it off here. Again, thank you so much, Flo,
Welcome.
for being here. It was so much fun talking to you, and it's great to have someone responding to Ignite's announcements from within Microsoft, because you know how the journey has been and what thought goes into each and every announcement. So that's much appreciated. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'll hope to see you. Just see you around, I guess, just like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube now. So it should be fun.
Thank you so much, my friend. And
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so
have a
much.
great conference.
Yeah, thank you so
And
much.
thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Just need